thought I would address you. You called me a coward because I have you blocked. And
yeah, you don't want to hear me.
Yeah,
or you want to have your finger on the button all the time.
it's not that. It's not that I think. It's not that I'm a coward and I'm afraid of what you bore the
What is
shit.
it then, Ace?
You
Why
bore
don't you want to hear the?
Okay, see, I have to put you in the back room because you are so rude and insolent. You know the word insolent? Look it up. You think that you're all so important, you can't. You have to talk over me, and I'm the host of the goddamn show. So get a grip, Bucky.
So edgy. Look how he uses the Lord's name in vain. He's so edgy.
I block you because I'm bored with you, and I only brought you in because you.
He's bored with Tim. This guy thrives on Christians, on mocking Christianity. If he's bored, certainly he'll need Tim to come back if no one's around.
Made a special request. Hey, 444 is here.
Yo, what's up? Morning.
No, I want to address what you said.
What
You're not bored with me.
You have to hold on because I'm still doing production. There's buttons to click, and the buttons are more important than you at the moment. Let's see. Okay, now you got it there, Justin?
Yeah, I think, does it show my screen?
Yeah, it's showing now.
Okay.
Okay, I'll be back in a while.
Bring up the chat.
Maybe a half hour to an hour, okay? So
Okay.
Tim, practice being loving. How about that? Instead of self-important.
Okay, how about we practice hearing the opposing view?
I have to leave.
Hear the opposing side without you getting offended, because all we're doing is exposing your false heresy.
He left. Hey, Sherry, welcome. Good to see you.
Oh, what exactly? So you what do you mean by confirmation? Because would it be fair to say that if someone gave a talk, that it would be, would it be always wrong to ask the question, did what I said make sense to you? That's not, I was not looking to see if anyone else, confirm my bias. This is scripture, Tim. It doesn't matter if 0 people understood me. Elijah felt alone and as the only one he thought he was. I don't care if 1,000 people think 1 + 1 is 1,000. I still believe it's 1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah.
Well, not.
So he's mentioning objective truths, right? Mathematics. He's relying on the scriptures. The interesting thing is the way he picks apart the scriptures and interprets it. Right? Jesus's commands, things like that, things of that nature. They've got it mixed up into, it's for the Jews, and they have this relative perspective that puts them in a place where whatever they say to Tim or any opposers is just a relative opinion on the matter, while trying to claim the scriptures are objectively true. And that's basically one of the, fundamental problems you can always hone in on with these guys.
0 people understand. I understand those.
Wow.
No, I didn't say that. Tim.
Well, but Tim thinks that words are persecution, not coming at people with pitchforks, burning them on the stake, murdering and killing people.
Right. So I guess.
Stop.
I mean, you can do.
It's not necessarily that words can't be persecutive, but I guess it's really
Maybe if you make death threats, but I think
Well,
if
no,
you're
but
just
what I
having
mean
a
is
stern
like,
talking to with people, that's not persecution. And you're not even doing a stern talking to.
right,
I
right.
mean,
So
Tim's trying to do a stern talking to.
Yeah. See, to do a stern talking to have a point behind what you're saying, you got to have something more than relativism, right? That's what these guys don't understand. Why would Tim or a Christian be under their subjective moral system when they make affirmations, proclamations, exhortations? Oh, you ought to do this. You should think this. Why would they be under a relativistic moral framework?
So if there's anybody who's
Or more correctly, why would someone's relative opinion be important to a Christian? Like if they can't even establish that there's any sort of a objective ethic or moral, why would I listen to your opinion, your feelings about what I ought to do? They can't figure this out. They have to abandon their doctrine in order to make that work. So they don't want to figure it out. It would destroys the doctrine that they're creating.
well, I mean, I guess it's kind of the heart of the matter when I think about it. Like the heart people had for what Jesus said was Jesus was speaking exact words for the Father, and they killed him. And so, just the words and the killing, it all is of the same heart. Whether it's through shunning or through throwing people out of your churches or sin.
Well, Christ talks about that with adultery, right? Like adultery in a woman. Adultery starts with the heart. Lusting after a woman, you've already committed adultery in your heart.
Synagogues, or it's the same. It's not about the words or about the crucifixion. It's about the.
But what's funny about these guys is they're going to say that he was speaking to some Jewish people at that time, and it doesn't apply to them. The Gentiles live in a different reality somehow than the Jews.
Or about stoning or anything. It's about the heart of the matter that they don't like bother.
I'm well aware. I've been threatened to have the police called on me for speaking the same thing in churches.
Yeah, and it's not even just always that. It's that it's the
what?
You can see what they think of you.
These guys have no system to ground their opinions in. When they're getting kicked out of churches, when they're being argued with, they're like, well, I feel this way. In the relative, I feel and think this way. They don't realize, or maybe they do again, and it gets in the way of their self-constructive doctrine, that why would people care about your relative opinions and feelings in an argument unless that's what you specifically want to argue, your feelings?
Told from the Baptist church, you should have listened to your pastor. You have an authority problem.
Maybe you do.
It's not necessarily. It can be very group like, because it's lonely. It's not necessarily about persecution. It's like, man, it's lonely.
Oh yeah, I have an authority problem, right? And I served in the army.
What?
Yeah,
What's
I have an
you might as well just
authority
believe
problem.
So if you served in the army, you don't have an authority problem. Is that the argument? You take blind orders from Charlie or a governing system that goes and tells you to kill strangers. You can still have authority problems. In fact, a lot of people in the military wake up to false authority, having been in, the military. They realize that these human authorities are just manipulating them to get them to kill other people that they don't know, and calling it honorable and courageous.
They claim to be.
Can you tell me what's lonely? What do you mean by lonely?
I've never come across another believer in my existence that's not online. I met someone
because you're falling into a doctrine that's false and being created and added to that wouldn't be around without, this online presence. You're trying to make up stuff over here at Aces and then bring it into the church.
That found me through Ace's channel, but that's one time. So it's lonely. You can't go down the street to a church and find believers. You find out that none of these people are believers. They're all just playing believer.
That's a dangerous thought. You know why that's a dangerous thought?
If the scripture teaches it, then it doesn't matter what someone thinks.
No, the scripture don't teach it. I'm talking about, that's a dangerous thought. That's not scripture.
It actually is the word of Jesus.
That's the same thing.
It's not only
the same thing that Elijah felt. That's the same thing that Elijah felt. Listen to the story. Yeah. Elijah felt the same way when he said, "I'm all alone."
And he was all alone.
God told him, I got 7,000 people to do your job.
That's not what it said. He said he has 7,000 people who do not bow the knee to Baal.
And Elijah felt what? He felt all alone.
Because he was all alone, Tim.
See, dude, that's dangerous.
Tim.
You think you haven't met a believer? There's believers everywhere.
Yeah, 7,000 at most.
Dude,
Where's he getting that number from? 7,000. Sherry, Ace comes up with great verses to back up his beliefs. Well, yeah, he plays the game, right? He focuses on certain verses and ignores most of the scriptures, but the ones that he likes, he'll use them and continue to build this belief system. The problem is the philosophy behind it is easy to dissect, and he either can't grasp this or ignores this.
Get off. You're down that rabbit trail. Get off of that. There's people everywhere.
Tim, he was alone. You're not understanding the story. He was alone in regard to.
You're not elite.
Oh, that's right. This Justin kid is doing the thing when people are like not adhering to what he's saying and he feels persecuted. He's telling himself that he's walking like Christ, and that's what he's experiencing, like the world of Pharisees and unbelievers. But he also rejects a lot of Christ's teachings, right? He says, "Oh, that's for some Jewish guys."
You're not superior. You're not the only believer.
He's not saying that, Tim. It's just what the
scripture says. When you're saying I'm all alone,
it says
when you're saying I'm alone,
he's not saying that outright, but Tim is right. He's implying that he's alone, part of the narrow path and being persecuted and woe is me type of thing. Though he's not necessarily saying that outright.
I'm in some kind of elite class, a group of people.
It says that it's
that's basic psychology, dude.
He's not saying.
Sherry, it's not so much about great verses backing up your beliefs. The scriptures, the verses are the standard themselves. That's where you start. It's not about you believing something and then seeing if it adheres to certain scriptures. The scriptures are the starting point. Not just the ones you like. That's the point with Aces Club.
Psychology.
You're implying that.
Specialist.
Take some psychology.
Please let me talk for half. I want to ask.
Go
you would agree that when it says that there's 7,000 other, the reason he felt alone is because yes, he was alone, but he wasn't alone in the regards to the entire system. That there was still other people out there, but that as far as like
you missed
stumbling
the whole point.
across them, they're not there.
You just totally missed the whole point and didn't get the context of the story.
Okay, then,
dude, that's how you guys do. You missed the whole context.
Okay, then teach me, because I'd be glad to hear.
I just did. I just
That wasn't
did.
a teaching, Tim. That was an assertion, and you didn't even quote it right.
No, that's not an assertion. That's a story in the Bible that you can look up yourself. You're just taking it way out of context.
Where you're getting this idea that they're
You're
all
stupid,
over the
dude.
place?
Get some brains.
Why would he feel alone if he was not? It's not
Because that's the same. Yeah. That's the same thing you're doing. You're thinking you're all alone. I'm the only. There's not.
I'm not thinking I'm all alone. I'm thinking
there's not very many of us.
If you're all alone.
Come on. We've already seen through that.
There's still people out there, but it's not a.
You're not getting it. So move on.
You understand how low 7,000 is?
So hey, move on.
And that we have the internet.
Because you're not getting it.
I could never imagine finding 7,000 people.
Move on to a different subject. You obviously didn't get it.
The internet. I can't imagine finding hundreds of people.
Hey, move on. Because it's obviously, I pointed it out to you and you didn't get it.
Well, I'm willing to listen.
When you're interpreting scriptures in your own unique way and not part of any ecclesia and rejecting all of Christianity, you could expect to be alone.
Listen, but
No, you're not.
Sure, I want you to teach me the story.
You're still stuck in your own thought. You're stuck in your own thought.
Aren't you doing the same thing, Tim?
No.
Classic, right? Tu quoque. He's not saying, oh, he's not stuck in his own thought. He's just saying you're doing it too, or aren't you doing it too? When people do that to you, say, oh, okay. So now you're conceding that he's stuck in his own thought and asking if I'm also stuck in my own thought? Yeah.
So you're a hypocrite.
And I told you what the Bible said.
You can't be stuck in your own thought, but everybody else can.
Listen up.
Tim, despite the fact that I know you don't believe the scriptures, I would still like to hear.
That doesn't matter.
Something to give me on that story.
It doesn't matter.
Misunderstanding.
You tell me I don't believe in the scriptures. That's a lie right there.
Well,
I do believe in scripture.
Since you bring up that example, well, why don't we talk about how that example is an example of God's choice and grace? Romans 9, 10, and 11.
Everything.
Hey, Nanya likes ice cream. Look out. You gonna tell us the flavors you like too, buddy? Well, Sherry, if you adhere to the teachings of the Trinity in heaven and hell, then you're far departed from ACES group. You know, you're going to be considered a Pharisee. They reject the Trinity. They reject Jesus as God manifest in the flesh. So that's far departed from ACE. To support him would be interesting how you would, back up the idea of being able to support ACE, if that's the case. But I'm not trying to, I was just happening to mention your comments. I don't know if I can't continue necessarily go back and forth with you. I appreciate the comments.
Hey, everything's God's choice.
Yeah, but you're saying that with sarcasm.
You're not
listening. Do you believe that?
He's not saying with sarcasm. He's pitching your own philosophy back to you because Tim understands the folly of this system. You guys are floating in and out of God doing everything, and then you keep making distinctions about you're doing something, Christians doing something. So he's pulling you back into it, into your own system.
You're not listening. You want to live in your elite world, and you're not listening to other people.
That's what you're doing, Tim.
No, I'm not.
So the dude went for it again. I don't know who that dude is, but he's on Team Tu Quoque, apparently. Logical fallacies all day in atheist communities, in ACES camp, all day long. I got to get a logical fallacy counter. I mean, you can actually make you could probably have a college course and use this channel, ACES channel, as a demonstration of logical fallacies. I think they're even constructing new variations of logical fallacies. I mean, when you get people who are saying, "Oh, I don't need logic. I can abandon logic here." Like when you really think of what that entails, or the ridiculousness of such a claim, Anyway, there'll be more.
Yes, you are. It's
That's
quite
not
plain to see.
But if I'm doing it, ain't that God's will? Whatever I do is God's will.
Right. From their purview, he'd be figuratively doing it. He would just be an actor on a stage. That's what God's doing. So when they point the finger at Tim, he's like, "Well, who's to blame? Who's to blame? Let's go back to your philosophy. God's to blame. You're pointing the finger at Tim and saying God's making Tim do that. Good luck. Good luck with that." But yes, they continue. They continue on. They think when they say, "Oh, it's in the relative," that gets them out of the problem. But all that does is, like I said earlier, say, "Oh, okay, so if you're coming from a relativistic perspective, you have your own rules, your own guidelines, your own laws. They're relative to this experience, and you're trying to apply them to Tim. Why is he under your relative subjective system?"
Whatever I do is God's will.
Why can't you see that? He doesn't like it.
Why can't you see that?
I think it upsets him.
I'm not upset.
I don't think he thinks he's elite. I think he just thinks.
Okay, so he's pointing out a huge fundamental flaw. And the Justin boy is just trying to go into feelings. "Oh, I think he's doing this. I think he just thinks this." He's not addressing the problem at hand. And it's no wonder they can't solve that problem.
Yeah, you are.
I'm speaking for you. I don't think you think you're elite. I think
we all see through your. We all see through that.
I think you think that it should be up to man, though, to choose.
See, you were actually just trying to compliment him. You were just trying to compliment him.
He never shuts up.
I mean,
he never shuts
Justin.
up.
No, not just Tim.
Yeah,
he was trying to compliment you.
Dude.
Yeah. I doubt Tim is here for your compliments. You know what I mean? Like that's sweet and all, but let's get to it. You might be being sort of I don't know, peaceful in this particular stream, but there are plenty of streams of the Justin boy just trashing Christianity, like as though like it's just so absurd and so stupid, and then he comes back and he's in a different mood. He's being nice and he's complimenting. Well, you go on a live stream multiple times and act a certain way, it follows you, unless you actually changed your position.
And then you turned it on him saying that he thinks he's elite, even though he was trying to compliment.
I mean, it would be more fair to not. I understand if he means by elite. Like, I don't think I'm better.
There's no other believers besides us. I've never seen another Christian besides us, a believer besides us. We're the only group.
Okay.
Oh my God.
I understand where he's coming from. It does.
Where's it come from, Justin? Where does it come from? It comes from God. You don't like us, but it comes from God.
I do. I love you, Tim. But nonetheless,
you love me. Is that why you come here to the show every day and mock and ridicule and complain?
Okay.
Right. He's trying to show like compliment, "I love you," and then he's just drawing it back to the last, few months. Like, that's not your position. You're trying to be my pal right now? Come on.
Okay, so
about
God's
will?
Hey, Tim,
is that why
you got it.
Come on. If anyone's going to be at this show, it would be people. This is the only show that has anyone believing any of this stuff as far as a consistent live show. You're the one who comes here to mock. How you're here every day and you don't.
Yeah, another tu quoque, right? Like he's not addressing Tim's point about him mocking, which he does. He's just going into, "No, you're the mocker. You do it. You do it too. Watch for this. Point this out to them. Point it out. You're going into a logical fallacy. You're trying to turn what I said around to me, address what I'm saying to you. It's very common here.
Shocking.
You don't even believe it.
Because when you logically come to the conclusion of your own philosophy, you don't make sense and you look like a fool.
Right. That is dead on. Tim has an understanding of their philosophy, so he's sticking to it when he talks to them. And they're not going to like that, right? Because they want to just move past it, just like an atheist wants to assume certain things that they can't account for. Transcendental categories. They want to assume meaning and value and just say, oh, I like this. I think this is this way. When you start to challenge the things that are prior to their claims, well, you find that it's empty. And that there's a reason to do that. You wouldn't just let anybody come and start telling you what they think or how you should act without challenging, like, how do you know? How do you know things? How do you know how I should act? Why are you arguing with me? What are you standing on? And the way Tim sees this is they're standing on a broken doctrine and one that they're creating. And then when you get into more detail, the subjective ethic or the relative ethic, the fact that God's doing everything, they're cooked. All you need to do is learn how to focus in on that, and they completely destroy themselves. So if you can do it gently, and if other people are listening, that's the point. But if you do it aggressively and you get frustrated, then they're going to point to you like, oh, bad guy, jerk. And then they escape that by pointing out your silly behavior. But if you stay to the information, oh, they're cooked.
I think it's because your identity is too tied to a religion.
My identity is in Christ, dude. My identity is in Christ.
Yes, but it doesn't have to be in Christianity.
If you don't,
that's all he's saying. No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
that's a man-made religion. No, that's a man-made religion.
And there's no such thing as man-made.
Let's just be clear.
There's no such thing.
What the scripture says, that there are commandments of men.
Everything's made
there are
from
doctrines of men. And
everything.
then there are
right. So he's reversing that back to him, the universalist, the specialist guy. He's making a distinction about Christianity, right? It's man-made, while holding to the belief that God did all of that. So for him to claim something is man-made goes against his own core belief system.
Commandments of God and doctrines
of God. If that's
the
case, then there's free will. If man made something, then it's free will.
No, it's not free will.
Well, then it's God's will.
God made a will.
Make up your mind.
Well, yeah, Tim's point is there. So now he's going into, oh no, there is a will, right? This is classic universalism. There is a will, and then you start to get in. Oh, okay, good. What does that will entail? What is possible with man's will? And then you get answers like, well, you can choose ice cream and choose your color socks you want to wear. But and the reason they do that is because if you're to continue that conversation, which typically gets stifled, if man has a will to choose, well, this is going to land him in the domain of ethics and behavior, meaning that God gave man a will that's not completely free to do anything, but he can make choices and he can choose to believe, choose to adhere to the scriptures. And this would change their whole doctrine. It would destroy it. So they get tripped up here. We'll see what happens.
Just like he made certain people believe.
It's God's will. So make up your mind. God's mind. Something.
There are commandments of God and doctrines of God.
If that's the case, then there's free will. If man made something, then it's free will.
No, it's not free will.
Well, then it's God's will.
God made a will.
Make up your mind.
Just like he made certain people believe.
It's God's will. So make up your mind. God's will or man's made will. Which one is it?
Technically, Tim.
Which one is it?
Well, Tim needs to ask what man's will is capable of and entails, because there's a responsibility when man has a will. And that's what they want to ignore. They want to say God is responsible for all, including man's will. So they sort of make a distinction and then they pull it back in. And that's what you're going to see most of the time, is this oscillating schism, in a sense, where they're going to tell you God's doing everything, but then they're going to make all sorts of distinctions and point the finger. And then you say, well, isn't God making them do that? And then they go into whatever they go into, depending on who it is.
We are
Is it man's free will or is it God's will?
Technically, Tim.
Let's get your stupid shit together. Let's go.
Come on, man.
Is it man-made or is it God-made?
technically, as far as the word Christian goes, we are claiming to be the Christians, Tim.
No, I'm talking about man-made versus God-made.
Right. He's not answering what Tim is pulling forth.
Man-made versus God-made. You say it's man-made. How could that be when you claim in another corner of your mouth, you say it's God-made? Which one is it? Man-made or God-made?
Tim,
if man made it, then it's free will.
You do things, and do and make are the same word.
So I do have free will.
No, it's
if
okay.
It's
look,
man-made,
so
then
like,
you do
listen,
things, but nevertheless, God gives you
if
everything.
it's God-made,
can I make?
Then I can't claim self-righteousness or
so
free will.
God can make one.
Right. When they're pointing the finger, calling people self-righteous, they're also saying God is making them do that. So it would take the criticism out of self-righteousness. The word implies that the self, the person you're pointing to, is being righteous and not giving that righteousness or applying that righteousness to God. So if they want to say that God is making them do that, well, they can't point the finger, but why would God be making people reject him and then judge them, right? You get into these types of discussions.
Person who doesn't make a religion, and then God can make another person who does make a religion. So one is making it man-made.
It's not man-made.
He made the man to make that.
Oh, so now they're saying man-made means like God is actually making the clay, and then it appears the clay is making the religion, but it's still God performing some sort of claymation, which gets into their whole movie and theater, right? They think we're in a claymation while they continue to criticize. Now they can try to fall back on that. God is making them criticize as well, but then it just goes into an infinite regress of nonsense. Well, look, he's making me do that. He's making you do this. And then you want to bring them into argumentation where they can't be responsible for anything they say. So, why would you take someone like that seriously?
Man didn't make it then.
There's a chain of command, Tim.
See, you're not seeing it.
God didn't directly make it, but he
no,
it's literally.
Now you're getting stupid because either man made it or God made it.
God makes the world and all that.
God made it. See, there you go again.
Yeah, but Tim, what he meant.
Did man do it or did God do it?
Oh my God, Tim, what?
Oh my God, you're stupid. I'm showing your stupidness.
No, you're just talking.
No, it is, dude. You're stupid.
What he means by man-made, of course, God made it, but he's
okay. Then I have free will. If man made it, then I have.
But Tim's got to calm down a little bit here. The approach of just saying you're stupid. I mean, if he really wants to just try to snap him out of it that way, he can. But there's a better way to do this. In fact, I would just keep doing what you're doing. Like every time they make a complaint or make a distinction, pull them back into their own philosophy. Just keep the pejoratives out of it.
Free will. If God made it, then we don't have free will.
What?
There's nothing, man. There's no man-made religion.
He's using kindergarten logic right now. He's using kindergarten logic.
I know. He's talking about.
Yeah, they have advanced logic where you go and just abandon it when someone's calling you out for not making sense. So now you're getting schooled by a kindergartner specialist. That's not going to be good for you. Be careful of how you frame people. Even Tim as well, calling someone stupid. When you try to receive a point from them, now you have to receive a point, and from somebody you're calling stupid. So that if that works against you, if they make a good point, now you're learning from somebody stupid.
It's the same thing, Tim, as shall we not receive evil from the hand of God and also good? Evil would be an example of receiving false religion from the hand of God.
You're going way off subject. Stick to what I'm saying. Stick to the argument.
You have to stick to what you're saying, not what God.
Hey, is this David?
The revelation of God.
Is this David?
Oh, Greg's in there. Greg's the guy to pitch this to, because Greg is the big George Lucas movie man. Had these conversations with Greg. Oh, so it's just God doing it, you know? Take it to the extreme, right? Like, oh, if I come and, you know, crash into your car, burn your house down, God did it. And he's like, yep. God had a reason for using you to burn my house down. You see, he can say that, you know, to save face and try to hold that theory. He doesn't live like that. He's living like man is doing things, and he's doing things, which of course they'll tell you that's the quote relative, but you want to use that against them. If they're coming from a relative perspective, they're coming from a relative ethic or relative moral system. So why would your feelings and your thoughts on the matter apply to Tim? And Tim is not coming from a relativistic position. He's saying there's objective truth and objective ethics within the scriptures that we are to adhere to, all of the creatures.
Huh? David.
Who's
hey, Greg, how you doing, brother?
Who's this other dude?
Greg. Greg, he was able to join because he has admin. It gives him like ace, like one admin ability or something. So he has it.
Yeah, I have the ability to operate some of Ace's controls.
So
I wanted to come in and talk to Tim, but he likes to overtalk so much it'll be difficult to hold a conversation.
what do you ask me a question?
All right. When you were a baby, before you cried and the doctor smacked you on the ass, did you fill your lungs with free will, or did God fill your lungs with his air, with his breath?
I don't know. I don't remember much when I was a baby.
Well,
so that's a poor argument, right? They're going to try to pull in like things like the autonomous nervous system, like things that are the way you're set up to like need to eat, need to go to the bathroom, need to breathe. Yes, you know, we know that there are things that are established, but when they can't make the distinction, or they refuse to, perhaps purposely, that those things that are required of us to live are different than the choices that we're making that are affecting our lives and our families and the people around us. But it's, you know, it's easier to do than this. In a sense, you just hold them to responsibility. Like Greg, if you ask Greg, are you responsible for anything, or is God responsible for everything? He'll say, God is responsible for everything. So then you say, whatever you're telling me in this conversation or the argument you're making, God's responsible for that. You have no responsibility. You know, he might talk about relative or whatever, but if he says no, well, what weight does it hold to say that, oh, I'm going to say these things and hope that you adhere to them and listen to them, but I'm not doing it. I'm not doing anything. Also, think about where that puts him in some sort of illusion, right?
you seem to be such a free will oriented person. You know,
did you remember anything when you were a baby?
Oh yeah, I remember.
Did you remember sucking on your mommy's titty?
I remember us nursing off my mom. I remember my cradle.
You did? How?
Really? He remembers nursing? Maybe he was nursing into the later years. It seems unusual. Huh? I don't remember.
How old were you?
Probably about 2.
2. You remembered that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he telling the truth?
2.
2. You remembered that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
I remember my sister's crib.
You remember that?
But the thing of it is,
I don't remember.
I wanted to ask you some questions. How many heartbeats do you control with your free will?
How many what?
Heartbeats.
I don't control anything.
Right. He's going into things that the body does automatically to try to say, oh, see, you can't control that. You don't control anything. They don't make a distinction between a decision-making system or responsibility of the behavior of the creature. They try to reduce it to like, oh, your heart beating and you breathing while you're sleeping. That shows that you don't have any will.
Oh, well, I thought you were a free will type guy.
He's
Well, no,
mocking.
you're claiming man makes stuff. I don't make anything. I don't claim that. You're saying man made, and then in the next breath you say
No.
God made.
God
Well,
made
who's the
everything.
one in control here? Man or
God makes
God?
everything. Everything.
Okay, then God's in control,
Always
not
has
man.
been.
Okay. Well, quit
Okay,
saying
so-
man made. God's in control.
God's in control of everything,
There you go.
including what you're saying right
these
now,
stupid idiots over here, they're not getting the argument.
including what you're saying right now. He's in control of that.
And I'm glad.
Yeah, Greg doesn't realize he's setting himself up for failure. And he's so confidently doing so. But I don't know if Tim's going to be able to work this, because he's trying to bring up the argument that they made about a man-made religion. I don't know if Greg heard, or if he's understanding his point.
I'm glad. I'm happy. You think I'm wrong, but I'm happy.
You in the comments all the time.
Am I not doing what God has intended for me to do? That's the question.
Always.
You are doing what he intended you to do.
Oh, great. Thanks, Justin.
Why are you in the
Thanks
comments all
for
the
that.
time saying otherwise?
I'm doing exactly
He's
what I'm supposed to
mocking,
be
Greg.
doing.
He doesn't actually believe it. It's a mock.
So when you mock somebody, is that supposed to make somebody feel like they're out of God's will?
Well, God willed him to mock.
There you go. Thanks, Justin.
Right? He's setting it up to get them to say, yeah, God's doing that. So when we have opposing information, when you think, 1 Timothy 4:10 is the way you read it, and I think it's the way I read it, God's making us say both of these things, and we never are apart from that. So they lose the autonomy to make sense of the truth or falsity of the situation. They're saying God's doing it. God's making you say that. He's making me say this. So they have no ability there, or no responsibility to even evaluate information based on their own position. Now, Tim is honing in on this, but, he needs a little more articulation. But even if he does have more articulation, these guys don't pick up on it, or they don't care. They just don't care. Now, they hold the psychology that it doesn't matter whatever negative response they get, because God's making them do it. So it's a no-win situation as far as getting them to receive. But I think Tim is there, and to point out the foolishness of the position so others can see it.
So God made you to be a mocking troll. Does that make you happy to know that?
Hey,
Why does he say God made you a mocking troll, and then does that make you happy? Doesn't it? Isn't it? And did God make you happy to do that? Again, and on and on and on. Like, they can't point the finger at Tim. If they're upset with Tim, they're just upset with what God is doing. Right? And that would be between you and God. Greg has a problem with God, interestingly enough.
If I can, whatever he wants me to do, I'll do it.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I feel the same way.
Oh, there you go.
Now,
So he feels that whatever God wants him to do, Greg, this is because he has his own position, a different position. Listen to what he continually is moving in and out of. God did it, and here's my will, and here's what I want, and here's what I think.
yeah.
Hey, if I can, whatever he wants me to do, I'll do it.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I feel the same way.
He's glad to hear him say that, and he feels the same way. In other words, well, God made me say, I'm glad to hear you say it, and God made me feel the same way every time.
Oh, there you go.
Now, when it comes to murderers, rapists, and thieves, that holds true for them too.
Good.
Oh, good. That is good. Greg is going to the extreme of his position. In case you were wondering, the rapist that's come up before, God's making them rape. Greg holds a position that if someone is raped, he probably wouldn't say it in this manner to them, but he would say, God made the rapist do it. But he had no choice. So then you have God acting out evil through his clay vessel.
Aren't you glad?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it means
that holds true for them too.
Oh, there you go.
Now, when it comes to murderers, rapists, and thieves, that holds true for them too.
Good. Aren't you glad?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it means that everything has.
That kind of shuts down your argument.
Everything has meaning.
Does that shut?
Everything has meaning? Where is he getting that from?
Down your argument for you?
Well,
that God
not
is in
really.
control, and there's no such thing as
that is my argument.
It does shut down the ability to argue, to ability and responsibility to make arguments, right? But that needs to be articulated, but it doesn't matter from what I've experienced. These guys don't understand. But again, some of the viewers can.
And God is in control.
So there's no man-made.
No, this is all a story, and we're characters on a stage.
Yeah, there's no man-made. It's a figure of speech, correct? And now he's gone into the movie script, which is just so annoying.
Made.
No, this is all a story, and we're characters on a stage doing our parts.
Yeah,
you're not real. I'm not real. It's an illusion. It's a story. I'm not responsible for what I'm saying. Would you really trust a person that's telling you that when you really consider the lack of substance that's coming from him? Because there's no substance that can come from him. And he is not God. The creature is not God. My ways are not your ways. My thoughts are not your thoughts. What do they do with Isaiah 55:8-9? Do they say that's for some Jewish people? Likely.
You say that 100 times a day.
Tim,
that's like your fallback answer.
The word "made" or "do"
is true.
What can I do? What can I?
How does Greg know that it's true if he's determined to say everything he says? Where is the evaluation from Greg? Right? Because Greg could be saying false things are true. He's not responsible for the things he says. He's not actually the evaluator in any real sense. Even the evaluations and considerations of information are all operated by God. So when he says, because it's true, you want to ask, how did he come to that conclusion based on his own philosophy?
What can I do to get out of God's will?
If man does something, it's because God did it through him.
That's in the relative.
Here we go. That's in the relative. So they want to break up reality. Like, oh, God made that guy rape your daughter, and that's in the relative. You feel like that guy had a responsibility, but that's just in the relative. So they reduce the severity of that situation by saying, oh, it's just a perspective that the girl that was raped, she just doesn't like it. And the guy that did it, well, he had to do it. He had no choice. It's a good idea to use these examples to show you what they're actually claiming. They get all upset a lot of times when you use examples like rape and murder. Oh, you're being extreme, you're being emotional. No, I'm trying to show you that your philosophy, that these real life situations considered within your philosophy are saying that the rapist is being forced to rape.
Can I do to get out of God's will?
Things, just
in
the
absolute God.
Which makes God the rapist. If he wants to say in the absolute, God's doing all the rape. So they've got an evil God.
that's man doing something, man-made. But to
No,
say
man is doing something, quote, doing something. It's man-made. It's, quote, man-made, but it's no actual volition or control of man. He's just a piece of clay that's being moved to appear like he's making something. So man-made and self-righteous are figures of speech from their position.
that's because God is playing with us like toys when it comes down.
Right. That's what I read in the scripture. Don't you read that in the scripture that God is playing with you like a toy? This guy wonders why he's alone. Listen to what he's saying to you. He's saying he's not even coming up with any of these ideas. In fact, as was pointed out earlier, he's just a toy of God. So whatever he's doing, he's determined to do. Yeah, you're going to be lonely with that one, dude. Most people can see through that.
Down to it.
God's playing with you?
Yeah, like toys. We're little toys of God.
Oh, dude, come on.
Yeah, Clayman.
Really?
We are the clay.
I think
He
God is
potter.
more involved in just playing with you like a little toy.
Yeah,
It's
he's
true.
very intimately involved with
That's
forming you
kind
and
of the
shaping you
idea,
with
like
his hands.
of a vessel. Like a vessel.
You're a little toy that God
A
plays
vessel
with.
that's
a new
shaped
one.
like a person would be a toy nowadays. It wouldn't
Well,
not.
see, were you just proving my whole?
In a way, these guys think they're in a simulation, like a Sims game, like Philip K. Dick simulation theory. They're an illusion, which breaks down to, why would you try to reason with an illusion?
Argument.
What did I prove?
You just.
I don't even
You
know
just-
what your argument is. You're so busy being sarcastic.
Well, no. I'm sarcastic.
is your-
Mistaking sarcasm as an internal critique, right? He's saying, I'm pitching your position back to you to see what you think or how it sounds when you change a little bit of the information and adhere it to your philosophy. He's calling that sarcasm. But Tim does need to, I would say, sharpen that up a little bit.
Actual
At
argument.
one side of your mouth, you say I'm doing things, or Christians are doing things, and then on the other side of your mouth, you say God is doing things.
That's basically it. That's the schism, right? They can't work it out, so they go, oh, absolute relative, which has, a host of other problems.
Who's doing it? God or the Christians?
God.
I mean,
So why are you spending days with A's, pointing to the Christian, mocking the Christian? Why are you spending your days mocking and blaming what God is doing and calling people self-righteous? That's what Tim wants to know.
You want to mock the
if you're going to
Christians.
credit anyone, credit
You
God.
can't tell me one thing God did not do.
God
So
does.
then you
Here's the
mock-
thing, God does everything, but everything.
You
that
mock
happens-
what God's doing in a Christian's life?
It's not mocking.
That's a better question from Tim. And then the reflex response is, oh, it's not mocking. Starting to pick up on it. I'm guessing it'll quickly be lost.
That's what it
I've
is.
noticed.
Like, God does everything, but everything.
You
that
mock
happens-
what God's doing in a Christian's life?
It's not mocking.
That's what it
I've
is.
noticed. I've noticed.
You need to take some
Nonetheless,
basic
that-
psychology.
Is
Dude.
unbelief.
Wait, wait,
Take
wait.
some basic psychology.
Basic philosophy. Take
some
I've
basic
noticed
psychology.
Tim,
from just
unbelief.
watching my son that
unbelief
children with
matter.
their toys can be very intimate with the stories that they make for their toys.
Hey, dude. You sound like you're brain dead.
Or
Oh,
do you
I
want to listen?
Why don't you use your brain a little bit? That don't even
Stop
sound right.
mocking. And actually open your ears a little bit.
I can't. God has to do that.
That's correct. You can.
Oh, okay.
See, you
But
can't even
no,
follow your own.
Yeah. Well played.
Philosophy.
What is one of the main?
You can't even
Hey,
follow
Tim.
your own philosophy.
Hey
guys.
Tim, what is
Listen
one of the
at
main usages God uses to blind, harden, and
We know that.
deafen?
We know that.
Yeah, but what does he use in the relative scheme of things? Would it be something?
In the relative scheme of things? See how he just inserted that in there? What the hell is the relative scheme of things? Some BS atheism language that nobody understands that they try to throw in there. The relative scheme of things.
You hardened?
Stubborn, would stubbornness remain?
Are you hardened? Are you blind? Are you hardened?
I am
Are you
certainly
blind?
stubborn.
Are you hardened?
Does
Are you
block
blind?
all up in stubbornness.
Are
And
you
he
hardened?
Hold all
Hey,
to the
are you
degree.
deaf?
Well,
are you blind? Did God harden your heart?
We all
Are
live
you
in
all awake now?
Yeah, at points I was
Wait.
a Christian too.
What? So, do you claim that you're awake now and everybody else is deaf?
Well, that's
Well,
what
there's
Jesus.
No.
degrees of, there are degrees of awareness.
He asked if that's what he claims now, and he answered that's what Jesus did. So this kid thinks he's right there with Jesus. I've been listening to him a little bit lately. He's having doubts about his position, perhaps realizing how ridiculous it is on a fundamental level, like Tim is pointing out. And he's going, "Oh, this must be the persecution of being in Christ Jesus." But he's not working out what's being brought to his attention.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus
so you're aware.
claimed to be
So
awake.
basically,
Was
is
what
this
did they
new
think of
age?
him?
Is this new age?
Yes.
That's
There's
new age
nothing new
philosophy.
under the sun. No, there's nothing new under the sun.
Okay, it doesn't matter if there's nothing new under the sun. The term New Age can mean a multitude of things, but this is a built philosophy or theology is the point. You know, what do you say? It's a new day, and you go, no, there's nothing new under the sun. Well, okay, so it's not a new day.
Yeah, there's a new age philosophy.
There's a thing
It's a
called
new
wisdom.
age. It's a demonic new age wave of philosophy.
I mean, it's really not even. It's not even worth calling it a philosophy, because philosophy typically is man's autonomous reasoning, and this deletes the ability for man to reason, which they would be happy saying they don't have a philosophy, but anybody knows that everyone has and carries a worldview, a purview, the way they see the world, a personal philosophy.
Okay, so Jesus's wisdom is demonic and new age.
No.
Yeah, they probably called Jesus New Age.
No, that's not. That's
No, he's not calling Jesus New Age. He's calling whatever you guys are pitching New Age. Why do they assume that they're adhering to the teachings of Christ? You know, what do these guys adhere to the Gospels? They stay in the epistles. They utilize parts of the gospel. They focus on the cross, but Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, you know, John 14:15, if you love me, follow my commands. They reduce that to, oh, he just meant that for a couple Jews.
not Jesus with wisdom.
You come to fill
It's
up
a
the
new
law.
age wave of philosophy.
If he comes to fill up the law, wouldn't that be new age? That it would be line upon line, precept upon precept, that he was giving more information on the same God? That would be, you know, that line upon line precept. If I remember looking there, it's
So
about
who has more,
that
who has more information?
people come along
You
and
or me?
people
Who
come
has
along.
more
and-
information? You or me? Who has more information? You or me? Who's more aware? You or me?
So people
Why
come
do you
along.
make it a dick measuring contest, Tim?
Who's more aware? You or me?
People come along and give precept that are upon the
That ain't what I asked.
precepts. And if I remember correctly,
Who's
someone
more
correct
aware?
me if
You or
I'm
me?
wrong.
Who's more aware?
Come on, man. Let me finish what I'm saying. literally.
Neither can you.
I mean,
there we go, right? You can't either. You can't do it either. The negation of the tu quoque. You don't have that ability either. Or the, just a tu quoque negative in a sense. And instead of the you do it too, you can't do it either thing. Greg loves that. He loves those tu quoques.
I can think things.
I can answer it very easy.
He said, I can think things. God is making me think that I can think things. That's a very different statement, isn't it?
Well,
you don't want to answer it because you don't know how to answer it. Here, let me answer it for you. God makes me aware.
So I said, it's different levels of awareness.
God's in
control of all of them.
God has made me aware in some things. Yes. But you couldn't answer that.
That's what I said. There are different levels of awareness.
So who's more aware?
This seemed out of the blue.
What level are you on?
Thing.
Whatever God makes me aware.
No level
What
about.
level?
There's
you higher?
Whatever God makes me aware of. That's a consistent answer for his philosophy. The problem is that he can never evaluate what the true awareness is or what the truth of the matter is, because he's just like, well, I'm just determined to answer that way and to think this way. That type of claim follows through all of their interactions. So Tim's getting up here going, God did it. God did it. God did it. It sounds annoying, but he's actually demonstrating what they're trying to pitch, what they're trying to sell.
Are you higher than a Christian awareness? Are you higher than
many things? In many things, yeah.
But when you don't even believe,
he's a lot higher because he's meant to think that he's higher. He didn't actually evaluate that through any type of autonomous reasoning, or he didn't adhere to the scriptures in a way as a creature and identify with that. He's just being made to say that he's higher than a Christian.
Christ died, Christ right. Like, what level is that? It's the level.
We all believe
it's not
that.
a level. It's just you don't even believe that.
We all believe that.
You believe Christ was dead in the tomb?
Yeah.
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 I kind of doubt that you do, but
what kind of
dumb seriously when you
what kind of dumb argument is that?
Well, you would agree that anyone who doesn't believe Christ was actually dead,
anybody can claim anything.
Believer, then
I've seen people claim they're believers and they're not.
Yeah. Would someone who doesn't believe Christ was dead as a doornail be, believing Christ?
Well, Tim, isn't it interesting how they're talking to you like you're responsible for the things you're thinking and saying? Because you fall in their worldview. Their worldview is that all people are completely controlled by God, not making evaluations, not making or don't have the ability to assess the truth or falsity of the matter because they're fully determined.
Died? Or would they be an unbeliever? Let's be honest with what it says, right? If someone doesn't believe Christ was dead in the tomb, he's not a believer. Despite wanting to believe they're a believer, it doesn't matter what we
wanting to believe they're a believer. You mean God is making them not believe, and then God is making them feel like they want to believe, and then God's going to judge them for what they did?
Want. Someone doesn't believe death is not life in another place, but that death is death. Going down to silence, not praising the Lord, not doing anything, then they don't believe Christ was dead. I mean, that's just, it doesn't matter. That's a scary fact, but that throws your 99.999% of Christianity instantly under the bus of simulated belief.
Wait. Simulated belief? That throws Christianity under the simulated belief bus? Really? as you profess that your belief is simulated because God's doing it all? Listen to these guys.
99.999% of Christianity instantly under the bus of simulated belief, imaginary belief, believing that they believe.
Oh, his whole system, his whole philosophy is simulated imaginary belief because he's not doing any of it. He's being made to believe it. That's simulated belief, son. You just described your own philosophy and tried to pawn it over to Christianity and Tim. Well done.
Believe. And that's just the first sentence.
Is that something you have to force yourself to believe?
Believers, people who image belief. They have an image of belief.
Do you have to force yourself to believe that before you trust in Christ?
No, it's just
it's not really forced. It's much just what it says.
That's a trap question by Tim, I suspect. Like, because how are any of these guys going to force themselves to do anything? They're being forced. And he answers, it's not really forced, but wait, it's all forced. Let's see what he says.
Yeah, it says that he puts all in unbelief.
Not really a matter.
I think
listen, Tim. I couldn't force myself to not believe it because I do.
Why are you making distinctions about what you could force yourself to do when you're saying that God is forcing all your actions and beliefs? Why are you now making a distinction about what you can and cannot force yourself to believe?
I do believe it.
Okay, I think universalism
died, but he didn't actually die. Yeah, go ahead.
I think universalism has to have knowledge before they believe, and it doesn't work that way.
You have
to have all this analyzing. You got this analytical mind that has to figure out God before you even believe.
No.
You can believe without, an argument, a formal argument, or even like a formal knowledge claim. I would say you're correct there, Tom, but you want to go up to their philosophy still. Do they have the agency to choose any of these things? And especially argue them.
No.
Yeah, you do. I got saved without knowing anything.
Mm-hmm.
I believed before I knew anything. Did you?
You believed without having anything to believe?
I believed before I knew anything about the Word of God.
I guess he's saying he has a personal experience. I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, what I would say is someone who's called won't have problems with, once they're called into Christ, they're not going to have problems with statements about such.
I'm going to tell you my belief. Everybody wants
a high degree that
I'm going to tell you how I believe.
Whether or not someone had the realization instantly of what it actually states or whatnot about what other things are in, for example, different chapters about justification and about vivification and how this is upon all. Even if someone maybe immediately didn't understand all this, they're not going to have a problem once they're called into Christ, that they're going to have a problem believing what Christ accomplished. They're called.
You're not understanding
the truth about Christ.
Because it's not like I just chose to read the Bible. It was on my 24th birthday.
Why are you singling out that certain choice? It's not like you chose anything.
It's not like I just chose to read the Bible. It was on my 24th birthday. I remember it was a Saturday. That was 2016, November 16th. And it was like after one of my cats had gotten run over by like a neighbor's car or something, and I had to bury him out in the yard. And I was just like really upset. But
I remember I then just went and asked my dad if he had like an old Bible, and so he gave me his old KJV study Bible, and that's what I mean is like when I think I started in John when I first opened the book, and I just remembered like reading just a couple passages, but then yeah, I had like this experience of this like overwhelming peace and serenity and like a physical tangible feeling.
What the heck is Wildheart doing here? My goodness.
Hello, good to see you, man. I'm not here to cause trouble or anything. I would just look and search for streams. Yeah. So.
Oh, I didn't understand that.
No, I'm not here to cause trouble or anything. I was just searching around for streams and seeing it was live. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just doing a critique. I haven't watched this yet. I wanted to ask you something though. Now that I got you, did you see me critique you and Ace?
I didn't know. I didn't see that.
Oh, well, I was going to ask you if you wanted to watch that when I saw you, because
yeah,
I critiqued you guys, and it was really in your favor. You know,
Ace. I didn't see it, but Ace did mention it that you got very excited when I criticized Ace or something. But I've not seen the actual stream, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what triggered him. The JG is Wildheart memo.
Oh yeah. Is that what caused it? Yeah.
Yeah. If you got a little bit of time, we can watch it. I wanted to see your response to it. You want to try? You want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah,
right.
That's good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we can do this. Yeah.
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I'm not in Ace's good books at the moment, if you know what I mean. Yeah, he keeps putting me backstage by disagreeing with like anything he says. You know what I mean? So not that I'm gonna be biased, but yeah. We're not getting on well at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just pulling this up here.
Oh yeah, I don't want him to agree with me. You know, I'm just saying he's a nice guy. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, word. Yeah. All right. Yeah, you know, it's a beautiful place or platform Ace has here, and you know, it'd be wonderful if people saw it that way, especially those who in particular those who disagree.
Yeah, I disagree with this vehemently. I'm an atheist, by the way, if you didn't know.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
I hope that's working.
Good for you. You're an atheist. You're supposed to be a believer. Telling an atheist, good for you for denying God, the truth and unrighteousness, because that's what we do over here at the Ace Theater.
No, to be fair, that wasn't Ace's fault, and people should be able to have their own beliefs. Do you know what I mean? If I'm an atheist, even if I'm on a Christian channel, I shouldn't be criticized for that. You live in America, I presume. So
no, the point is a believer wouldn't typically say like good for you for being an atheist. That's all I was saying. It doesn't really make sense for the view. Like you don't promote atheism as a believer, you know. It's pretty well known. But he could be saying it in a different way, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you meant just
I'm always thinking in terms of the philosophy.
Yeah.
Like why would you say that as a believer? Like, oh, good for you, you're an atheist. That doesn't ring to make sense to me. But anyway, that's fine. Oh my gosh, look at Doubting Thomas on the screen going for the tu quoque again. He did it too. Look, he did it too. Oh, so predictable. Doubting Thomas. He can't help himself. Love it.
And out. I
Yeah.
don't think he
You're in
chose to
good
be an
company.
atheist.
Wildheart, you're in good company because God is also an atheist. He doesn't believe in any.
Oh, God's also an atheist, as though that's a good point, right? Like God, who is transcendent of his creation. The creator can only know God so much. He can't know the true essence of God completely. But this is so clever, say, oh, God's an atheist too, Wildheart. You're right there with God. It's just constant nonsense from these guys. It's a feelings club, right? When you get to the substance of what they're actually professing, it's so nonsensical on a fundamental level that it's just very, very easy to point out constant issues, constant problems. The reason being is they start off with no responsibility. God's doing everything. And when you consider that, you realize that that's so contradictory that whatever follows, stems from a contradictory fundamental claim. So I have to pause it a lot in order to point this out.
Any other gods?
He doesn't believe in himself.
If you understand the scripturally speaking belief, I think it would be fair to say God doesn't believe in himself. I mean, it depends on how you look at it, but God doesn't assume some conviction about or maintain some conviction about what he expects. I don't think it's possible for God to expect anything. Doesn't make sense. It's all dependent on what he does and what he does next, and he knows all that is. It's weird.
Yeah,
but I get it, man. I mean, hey, you're an atheist. All right. How'd that happen?
I've always been atheist. I went to 2 Roman Catholic schools, and I just never believed in God. Like from the age as far back as I can remember, like from 4 or 5 years old, people read me the Bible stories, and I thought this is clearly just made up. Do you know what I mean? It was obvious to me from a very early age that it's all made up. So I've always been an atheist.
It was obvious to him that it was all made up. So what does he think he's doing now when he assumes all sorts of philosophies that he can't account for, puts faith in everything he says and does in every moment of his life? The skeptic is perhaps the most faithful position of all. The skeptic can't make sense of one moment to the next. So as he moves fluently through reality, he assumes faithfully all sorts of things from the past into the future, which is induction, which he can't account for from that philosophy. Meaning that his whole life is based on a faith that is mysterious to him or unknown to him.
Well, JG, can you pause, please? Yeah, I think you're conflating faith with a belief in God. The two are not necessarily connected. I could have faith in something and still not believe in God.
Yeah, we want to know what you have faith in as a skeptic. That's the point. So when you identify individual things, you point to different things, they're going to need to be in some particular category.
Yeah.
And
so like mention a thing that I have faith in.
Well, everything you do requires faith in the sense that you're moving, you're moving through time So you're relying on the past and things that you know, claim to know or believe and remember, and then you're in this moment and you project into the future. So it's inescapable. Faith is. So the question becomes to the skeptic: what is your faith in ultimately?
Yeah. So I'll grant you all that. So I have faith in everything. That doesn't mean that I believe in God.
You have faith in what?
And no, just for the sake of argument, let's say that I have faith in everything. I use faith.
What does that mean? Faith in. What does that mean? Faith in everything. That's very broad and general.
No, you were saying that I have faith in things. I'll grant you that. I'll grant you that for the sake of argument. How does that lead me to a God? It doesn't mean that I have faith in God. I could have faith in everything in my everyday life that I experience and still not believe in God.
That's what you do. Right. That's what you're doing.
So, but I don't see the connection. I don't see the connection. What has it got to do with God?
Well, before we even get there, I would want to know what the faith is in and how you account for that from the particular position. But I don't really want to get into all that now, but that's what I'm driving at here. And I do go against you a few times here, but mostly this becomes about you repeatedly asking Ace a question and him repeatedly dodge it. So, we can talk about those things another time, but if you remember what I'm saying there, I'm looking for what your faith is in and how you account for whatever you claim the faith is in. He suppressed God or removed God from his worldview, but he thinks that he's going to be wise to come in and try to refute God from a position that denies his lack of faith or his faith in the unknown, to try to get you to demonstrate God or to prove to him God. Why would you take that route with a fellow like this? You want to know what he thinks is real, how he knows what he knows, which is nothing, by the way. He'll tell you he doesn't know anything. Then he'll tell you he believes things. And you ask him what the belief is based on, because it has to trace back to some knowledge, or it's just a blind faith belief. So think about that. He doesn't know anything, but he believes things. When you ask him what it falls back on, what knowledge, he doesn't know. So he has blind faith in his walk through reality, and he wants to criticize a believer.
I don't know what it's like to be a Christian.
Would you say you came out the womb an atheist?
Yeah, everyone comes out the womb an atheist. Because babies can't. Yeah, babies can't.
Speaking of out of the womb, start to ask these people who don't know anything silly questions like, did you come out of the womb this morning? Do you not know that? Did Richard Simmons' great grandfather give birth to you this morning? Wildheart, are you unsure of that? Can you not be certain of that?
JG, can you
Richard Simmons' grandfather give birth to you this morning? Yeah.
Do you disagree that everyone comes out of the womb being an atheist? Because babies aren't able to process conceptual thoughts like God. Well, so no baby comes out believing that God exists.
It sounds reasonable. The problem with it is it's a universal claim about all babies. So it's going to be a problem for you to actually account for such a claim.
I don't have to account for it. Do you agree that if a baby can't conceive of things, they don't have that ability? That every baby is an atheist because
I agree.
They can't conceive in God.
Right. I can agree with you about things, but I can still challenge how you come to the claim. So I can say that sounds reasonable.
It doesn't matter how I come to the claim if we agree. So we agree that all babies are atheists. When they first come out of the womb, they're atheists because they don't believe in the God.
You notice in the video I didn't go after that. Right?
I'm not. Yeah, but I'm saying now, can we agree that all babies are atheists? You don't come out of the womb believing that a God exists, do you? No one does. No baby has ever come out of the womb believing that God exists.
Okay.
Therefore, all babies are atheists. Sorry.
Yeah. Philosophy is challenging how we got to the things that we're claiming. We can agree, and I can still challenge how you got there. That's what philosophy does. That's what philosophy
but it doesn't matter how we got there. The end result is we both agree that all babies are atheists.
Well, I'll give you an idea of what I'm saying. Like, if you have two believers and say we both believe in God, it doesn't matter why we believe or how we got there. If somebody's saying the cat whispered in my ear that God exists, I'm still going to challenge that, even though they say they're believers.
But no, I'm not asking the question how we got there or anything. Can we both agree that all babies come out of the womb with no conception of God, no belief in God, therefore they are atheists? Can we? It's a simple yes or no answer.
For the purposes of moving forward, I can agree with you, but I would still challenge you. But that's all.
All right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Morning, and Eliza Minnelli's stepson give birth to you tomorrow as well. Is that something you're uncertain of? You're not sure if that might happen? The uncertainty game is funny when you start putting out different scenarios, because you realize that if they answer, yeah, I don't know, they can't be convinced they're going to be birthed out of dead men tomorrow or yesterday or both, but then they want you to convince them of God. You want to point out the absurdity in the worldview that they're carrying instead of just giving them information trying to convince them.
Conceive of God, or so everyone is born an atheist. I know that's a terrible. It's not an argument against.
He doesn't know it. He doesn't know anything, but he knows that everyone's born an atheist, right? He has universal knowledge of all beings who are born.
We can pause.
The man who doesn't know anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we just agreed that every baby is born with it. No matter how we got there, we both agreed that every baby is born an atheist. So, carry on. It's God exists.
Oh no, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it's a fact. It's a fact. Everybody is born an atheist, man.
Hey, Wildheart, read this passage right beside you.
Titus 1:10-11. For many insubordinate, vain. Oh, I don't know that word. Vain.
I thought you were from England. I thought you knew English.
I know.
He should know vain prater, because that's the category he's in now. Will Ace call Wildheart a vain prater? Not today. He's going to be focused on Christians right now. So Wildheart's his pal. Wildheart, won't fall into that category at the moment. Basically, he just uses this to say a vain prater is someone.
And JG, can I just give you credit for letting me on and talking to me? I do appreciate it. I know I'm a dick. Sorry, I don't know. So I know I'm
I give you a lot of credit coming up. I know I was doing my thing that I usually do, challenging the skeptic, but as this moves on here, you're going to get a lot of credit. So just wait for it, man. It's good.
Yeah, but thank you for letting me on. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Won't fall into that category at the moment. Basically, he just uses this to say a vain prater is someone who goes against the doctrine that he's making up in his memos. That's what a vain prater is.
vain praters. Is it praters or praetors?
Yes.
Praters. Yeah. And impostors, especially those of the circumcision, 11 who must be gagged. So
Read it
basically,
again. Now that we've cleared up your vocabulary, go ahead.
praters. Yeah. Titus 1, 10 to 11. For many are insubordinate, vain praters and impostors, especially those of the circumcision, 11 who must be gagged. So is that saying that if someone doesn't agree with you, they must be gagged? They must.
Yeah, that's it. If someone doesn't agree with the ace, right? If you want to utilize Titus correctly, it would be someone who is convicted or dedicated to the scriptures in their entirety, right? All scripture is all scripture is reliable for reproof and correction. Like, it's not a matter of just the epistles and the parts of the epistles that you like. So he actually falls in this category. But like Wildheart may be giving him a slight right here, saying, are you saying that people don't agree with you? Right?
Must be stopped from speaking because I don't agree with that.
Really?
Yeah,
I have heard you on your channel yell out the words, Jill, shut up.
Yeah, but that's just because Jill's annoying. That's nothing to do with theology.
He's a vain prater. He's insubordinate, and
So this is why I say they can't defend their fabricated doctrine, right? Like, they try to use this against Jill, for instance. But then when you say, well, what is Jill doing wrong? They start to flounder, right? Well, I'm not saying he's doing anything wrong. Oh, okay, then it sounded like you were. Wait a second. Are you also saying that God is making Jill do those things? Yes. So God is making Jill do that. God is making you see this. What is it that you think that you are pointing out? Because they want to float in and out of it's all God into, oh, wait, we're in this relative realm.
JG, can you just pause that? Yeah, and I'm not like sucking up to you or anything, but yeah, I kind of agree with you on that point, and I've never understood like Ace's position is that God is in control of all your thoughts and all your actions. So whenever I do anything, or whenever Jill does anything, God is in control of that. He's making us do those things, I think, in Ace's view. So why get angry at anything?
Right.
What's
the actual problem, right?
Yeah. And I kind of agree with that. And I've never understood Ace's position on that. If God is in control of everything I do, why get angry at me? You should be angry at God for making me do those things. Do you know what I mean?
Well, he essentially would be angry at God based on his own profession. Yeah.
Yeah.
His problem is with God, not with Wildheart.
Yeah.
Where they go, oh, we're just making noises and pointing the fingers because that's what God's having us do. So they abandon any sort of argument that makes sense when you point this out. And they either just can't get this or they just keep going. They want to reduce everything to a relative realm. It doesn't help them because they're still pointing to God, who is truth. This would be in the objective sense. This would be non-negotiable, non-changing, and his will, which is not the human will. The human will is separate from God's will. It's distinct. We have the creator distinction in Romans 1. This becomes their main problem, a main point of contention. They can never actually point out that anything's wrong at all. based on their own doctrine, their false doctrine, and the assertions within. And it's as simple as that. If you focus on that, they have nothing.
Hey man,
circumcision.
if you
Nemesis, I'm right behind them. This is his show right now, so I'll catch up to whatever they're saying. It's not a big deal. I'm not worried about being live. You know, that's kind of what Ace does. He just keeps going and going and going and making new live streams. He doesn't. I think that was Nemesis giving me a notification that in this particular stream you start challenging Ace. So he was just giving me a heads up. I think that's why I kept critiquing. It's all good. And go back and review the ridiculousness. So I'm helping him do that. You know, he can say what he wants about me. When it comes down to it, is he actually disproving the information that's coming forward? How could he do that? How can he actually do that? If God is making him say what he's saying, and God is making me say what I am saying, there's no point of contention. There's no argument. There's no responsibility for us to hash that out. He's already hung himself. So for me to follow and critique him is more valuable, given that someone would, you know, watch this and say, yeah, let me see what's happening here, you know, without the distractions of like a Wild Heart or whoever, a Sean Eagle, just making noise so we can't have a coherent discussion. The critique becomes more valuable.
If you don't believe against, I'll say, or if you're not opposed to vain prating, you know what I mean? Because technically speaking, you disagree with vain prating. You don't find it constructive and not necessarily entertaining, right? Because it's annoying, at least Jill's version of it. Right, man? If you're setting
Titus isn't talking about Jill being a vain prater. It's talking about a vain prater is a philosophy that starts without God. That would be Wild Heart. They would be speaking about reality in vain, in the absence of God. And they're lost on this.
Jill up for vain prating. It seems like you agree with Ace, bro.
They've got vain prating as, oh, you're disagreeing with my memo, so you're a vain prater, as though they're part of, you know, Paul's group, Paul's evangel, whatever they want to call it. They think that they're playing that role while denying Paul in many ways. And it's not necessarily outright denying him, it's dismissing his exhortations, which have to do with human behavior. And they dismiss it without even saying so, because they're saying that God is making them do whatever they do. So if they're going against Paul, well, that's just what God is having them do, and so forth and so on.
Yeah, JJ, you can pause it there. What I was going to say is, if Ace believes that God causes everything, like God is in control of my actions, then why criticize anything? Like, everything I do is due to God. So whenever Ace criticizes me or you or anyone or anything, he is in effect criticizing God. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If God is in control of everything and he's making us do the things we do, whenever he gets angry at me or you or anyone, that's God's fault in his worldview. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah. You're showing a fundamental inconsistency there. Yeah. It's not just like a one detail that needs to be worked out. It's a fundamental problem that he's constantly engaging in.
Yeah. Why? So, yeah, under Ace's worldview, why criticize anything? Why criticize anything that happens? Because it's all in God's plan. God is in control of everything. Our thoughts, our actions. So if he ever criticizes anything, he is basically criticizing God. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you pointed that out to him?
Yeah, several times. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. You know, so I put him backstage. He's always coming on my channel, and I put him backstage often and mute him. But that's just because he's annoying. It's not really anything to do with theology. It's just because he never shuts up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, Ace isn't booting him because of a disagreement with theology. That's my point. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, we agree, but for different reasons, basically. Yeah.
Did you hear what you said just right then? Did you catch that?
No, you can explain it to me.
It was just what we were just talking about.
But for different reasons. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. We agree, but for different reasons.
We agree, but for different reasons. That was just what we were talking about. We can make agreements, but we can challenge the reasoning behind the agreement. Interesting how you said that in this very conversation.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah.
See, Ace.
Yeah. Different emotional reasons, right? Because that's what you guys have. You guys are arguing from a foundation of your feelings about the way you want reality to be. I mean, Wildheart is beyond lost, right? As a skeptic, he's just making stuff up and trying to get you to buy it, but you want to stop him and go back to questions like, how do you know true from false in your worldview? Because he has already said he knows nothing. So there's not really much need to spend time with Wildheart other than that. Coincidentally, Ace is going to fall in the same category because he doesn't know how to determine the truth or falsity of a matter. If you ask him, he's going to point to certain scriptures that he likes, which he says, well, the Bible's an interesting book. I don't know if it's true, but I like Paul.
Oh, JJ, yeah, when I say I don't know anything, what I mean is I don't know anything to 100% certainty. I'm sure you're aware of the problem of solipsism. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you don't know. You don't know if that claim is correct either about certainty. So you're in an infinite regress.
No, that's not an infinite regress.
Well, because everything that you say, like, I don't know that for certain. You don't know the thing that you just said. You don't know for certain either. So it just keeps falling back into, I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah, but there's, I'm sure you know, there are just different definitions of knowledge. You know, like just true belief, and I'm saying I don't know anything to 100% certainty because of the problem of absolutism. I'm not saying that I don't know things.
Well, that's different than what you've said in the past. So I guess I just have to check with you day by day.
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't know anything to 100% certainty.
But you also don't know that, you see.
Well, I don't know that I don't know anything to 100% certainty.
Yeah, you don't know. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
and I'm sure you can comprehend why, you know. I'm sure it clicks for you. You know what I mean?
Ace boots Wildheart all the time. He's not booting him now because he's in agreement with him. He uses Wildheart when Wildheart wants to come down on Christians. Then he becomes useful. This is all about how Ace can use you. If you're in line with him, if you're dogging on a Christian, then you're welcome, right? There's no shame here.
Sorry. Thank you very much for having me on. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning here, so I've got to go to bed, so I've got to leave. But thank you very much for having me on. It's been.
Oh, you know what? No problem, man. But we didn't even get into it. So catch me another time, and we'll get to the part because it got much better for you. You were.
I'll carry on listening, but I've got to go to bed now.
Well, no, I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna watch it myself again. But if I see it again, I thought it was coming up sooner than that. But
yeah. No.
All right.
Thank you for having me on. It's been a very civil discussion, I think. So yeah, thank you very much.
All right, man. Take care of yourself.
I'll see you later. Thank you. Bye.
Legitimate metaphysical overreach, transcendental, legitimate analysis of the preconditions of human experience. And I think I'm alone. Scott, I'm trying to find your "Are You Hearing Me" banner, and I can't find it. I don't know. Maybe I'll try a different banner, and then I'll hide it. Oh, okay. Got rid of it. Anyway, here to talk about the transcendental argument for God, or anything for that matter, and has a little bit to do with JG, who tried to have a conversation with the other day, but then they're like, how do you justify that? How do you justify that? And the whole idea behind Van Tillian apologetics is to undermine anything your opponent says, no matter what it is. And to keep coming back at them that no, they have the answer. God basically is responsible for transcendental categories, and that's it. And there's no other way it can be. And not only that, but it has to be the Christian God, because reasons. I'm not sure what the reasons are.
Of course, you're not sure what the reasons are. You don't understand the argument, but you're going to proceed to make a video. You asked. I recall us talking before this, as you just mentioned my name. I mentioned transcendental categories, and you said, what are transcendental categories? So the next day or so, you decided to make a video about transcendental categories as you're just learning about them, I guess. But you somehow know that the argument doesn't work. Well, that's interesting.
Always sort of baffles me that they think this argument has some kind of substance. But if you read closely what Van Til and what the hell was this? The next guy, Scott would know it.
Bahnsen.
The big promoter of Van Til. Who was that?
You know, I can picture him in my brain, but
right.
I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
Anyway, here you are trying to drag it back up.
Huh? Bahnsen?
Yeah, Bahnsen.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so yeah.
Bahnsen would spend about 90 seconds with these guys. But they know he's wrong, subjectively, of course.
If you read their books in many different places, they show their cards.
So he's read Bahnsen. He can't recall his name, but he's read his books. I mean, what is? Okay.
Show that what the whole purpose is to shut everybody else up.
So is he saying that is not possible, or he doesn't like that, or that's mean? I'm not sure why that would be a problem if that was the case. But he won't be shut up. He'll keep talking even if he's doesn't know what he's talking about, I guess.
And they do it, with this going around transcendental. They'll try to undermine anything you say. So, and then they'll say, oh, Kant, you know, we know so much about philosophy that we got this from Immanuel Kant. And I don't know, ChatGPT kind of differs with them. But to show you the arrogance.
ChatGPT differs with them. Some system programmed by humans. Just what is ChatGPT going to do as an authority, Mike? How are you going to make that work? You know?
Let me see if I can full screen layout. Let's see if I can play. I just want you to look at his face more than.
So the arrogance, look at his face. This is what they're trying to do. Is Mike going to get to the truth or falsity of the matter? You know, that's what I want to know. Because he's mentioned that before about Jay Dyer. Look at the faces he's making. So it's point to this, focus on this. Let's get to what's true.
Than anything else. And this is for slow boys, I think. Yeah, he calls this guy a slow boy, and it's a pretty honest guy that's trying to have a talk with him.
I was not raised in the church, and I basically developed on atheism due to just a lack of anything else. How is it? I don't think it is possible to convince somebody who is in that situation and also is a logical person who relies on rational arguments to come to conclusions. Basically what I'm saying is I don't have a lot of faith.
He's writing on his little whiteboard now. He's got a little tiny whiteboard. I've got like 5 or 6 8-foot by 4-foot whiteboards.
Yet they're all full of nonsense, and he's consolidating claims that you can't dispute on a little tiny whiteboard. Quality over quantity, Mike.
He's got a little tiny whiteboard. So who's better, boys and girls?
Points to just take somebody's word for it that there is a God, that Jesus Christ is that God, and all the other things that go along with that. How can do you believe it is possible to convince somebody like that?
First and foremost, no, I do think that there is logical, demonstrable proof for the Christian God. I think the transcendental argument is a valid, sound, logical argument. I think that the argument is itself about the status of logic and reason itself. So no, I would not ask a person to believe Christianity just simply on hearsay or because somebody claimed to have had XYZ experience. I mean,
I have a better video that we could go through, but let's see. I wonder if we should do some background on transcendental, on what transcendental categories are. What do you think, Scott? First,
if you got the info, go ahead and mention it.
Oh yeah. Let's see where do I have it?
It's a good thing for him he stopped playing that.
Mac OS screen. Okay, I gotta turn on my video. And then I gotta make me big again. By
the way, we have some very distinguished participants in our live chat.
Do we?
We have 30 rodent. Phantom X11. God equals the square root of -1 has graced us with his imaginary presence.
Okay. What do we got? We got to keep an eye on chat because we want to engage a little bit. Are you morally justifying there are good reasons without a creator God? How to justify your request for it? Yeah. That's kind of what I want to get to with some of this. And they keep, they say,
how do you justify your request for justification? Well, it's basic philosophy, epistemic justification, Nerdy Rodent. When someone makes a claim about something they know, you're asking them why they're making that claim and how they know that. Metaphysics, epistemology, ethics.
Let's see, the necessary conditions for logic and knowledge, basically, is what they're talking about. So they believe that God is the only excuse you can give as a necessary condition for.
No, it's not quite an excuse. The argument is that God is the necessary precondition for logic and morality. Immaterial universals that we all rely on. That's the argument. You cannot like it. We get that. You cannot agree with it. We get that. Can you overcome it?
For logic and reason and knowledge, that sort of thing. And they kind of pull God out of their ass because God
is the starting point for that, is the argument. It's not a pulling him or adding him there. This is what they seem to not grasp. It's a meta level argument. They're going behind just the assumption of logic and reason and morality. What atheists want to do, talk about these things and saying, we're giving an account for how they exist in the first place. That's the argument.
Works really well because God can do anything, right? You can fill in.
Let's imagine something that grounds something that may not need grounding.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead. Imagine something that doesn't need grounding. And they don't realize the fatal mistake when they do things like this. Even in their language, imagine something that doesn't need grounding. You can show how a lot of their philosophy is imagined, which they're not going to like. In fact, the point is to show that it's all imagined. And that's what they want to show you with God. And that's what you want to point out with them. It's like whatever they're coming to you with, it's not going to be grounded in any sort of justification. So it will be imagined. And that's the point of what Van Til and Bahnsen do, is they shut down their opponent because they simply ask certain questions, take the information given and pitch it back to them and say, how does this make sense? How is it anything other than your imagination that this is a coherent worldview, or that this is a reality that makes sense?
And we can say X grounds it. And why does X ground it? Because X accounts for all of it, right? So, I can tell you a story about X to show you that X basically is a necessary precondition for, but is it a necessary precondition, or are there other conditions? Is it just that one? Because X can kind of be anything, right? So I don't think so. Oh no, toast is contingent.
Yeah, you try to take a transcendental argument and posit something other than God, do it. I welcome that. It's easy to show where you fall up short. That's sophistry.
Let's see. How does the God guy know he's not a?
He's referencing Alex Malpast.
So I don't.
Alex Malpast with a toast.
Oh no, toast is contingent.
The thing about choosing something like toast, it keeps you in the material realm. But think about how easy to strike down an argument about toast being the necessary precondition for all reality. That's the best Malpast could come up with. He's confined to his materialistic framework, so he couldn't even choose something that's some sort of creator, and it's a fail. But they latch onto that like it's brilliant, because that's someone they look up to, Alex Malpast.
Let's see. How does the God guy know he's not a brain in a vat? Yeah, right.
The brain in the vat's interesting too, right? Like solipsism, like most of the people who talk, materialists, physicalists, atheists, who talk about a brain in a vat, like it's a problem. Like, what evidence do they have that anybody or anything was ever a brain in a vat? What are they relying on? That's an imaginary idea that they're putting forth there. That would be against what their alleged worldview. They wouldn't allow imagined ideas to be arguments, but somehow they use this brain in a vat argument as though it's been demonstrated through empiricism. Why do they use that? Why would they rely on that?
And a brain in a vat, and the vat is in a brain, in another vat, which is in a brain, in another vat, in another vat, on and on.
Yeah, when they saw it on a movie.
infinity. I think that kind of defines God. Okay, so let's see. What does Kant mean by transcendental? How does it compare with the Christian idiots? I kind of loaded this a little bit for ChatGPT. You can see. Can you tell that I kind of loaded the argument?
It's definitely loaded.
A little bit. That are using tag. Kant's word transcendental has a precise technical meaning. It has nothing to do with Christian apologist tag argument. The two uses.
There's a reason for that, because Kant fails to secure or ground his position. He claims that there's a noumenal realm and a phenomenal realm, like sense data, and then an objective realm, but he can't unify the two. So he ends up just having an imagined idea that he can't make cohesive. But they're looking at Kant as an authority for some reason here.
To share a syllable and nothing more. The apologists are playing etymological dress up, which I love. I love ChatGPT sometimes, especially when it agrees with me.
That is a good turn of phrase.
Yeah. Etymological dress up. Good one. Kant coins transcendental from the word whatever, climb across, go beyond. Oh no. It's Char. I just rejected her. I'm not going to talk to my sister. Not mystical, not supernatural, not God. It's about epistemic machinery built into human cognition. And that's what he was talking about. He was claiming that we have this noumena, basically, and we can't reach it because...
No.
But Kant reached it to recognize it? How does that work?
Anything... Yeah, well, any way to reach it, what we have is phenomena inside the noumena, and we can't reach the noumena with our phenomena because of these necessary transcendental categories, basically. Necessary structures of the mind that shape any possible experience, space-time, causality, and categories of understanding. So this is very interesting. So we have to, okay, sort of pulled mind out of his ass, right? and a lot of idealists do this too. And it's just like mind. Oh, we all know what
physicalists do this. They can't account for mind. They say it's the brain doing things. What is that supposed to mean? The brain doing things is the mind. It just becomes circular and without explanation. They want to bring in transcendental categories unaccounted for. That's the problem. He's trying to blame it on idealists. He's doing the same thing. Epistemic justification is what these guys are all avoiding. They want to skip past that. They want to skip past transcendental categories and assume them. Do they ever do that? Are they able to do that? That becomes the question.
What that is, and we all have mind, and I think therefore I am, and all that. And
yeah, just we all have mind, and I think therefore I am. Like he's just assuming mind, and he's assuming I think therefore I am. There's so many presuppositions baked into Descartes there. The I is presupposed, thinking is going on, that assumes time. Therefore is causality. I am is ontology of existence. He's just saying, oh yeah, we just assume that. But when you challenge that, that's when they start to melt down and go into these ridiculous streams like he's doing here.
And I push back against all of that as being something we can just pull out of our butts. And I think it's a very wrong way to look at the universe. And
wrong in the sense that his feelings don't like it, but it's a subjective position. Like it's wrong, but I can't really say it's wrong because I don't know what an objective ethical system is, and I don't have an objective moral to fall back on. So I just say it's wrong, and I hope it convince you through my feelings and expressions.
A wrong way to look at metaphysics, basically.
Oh, a wrong way to look at metaphysics, says the physicalist, who just assumes the metaphysical. He's going to tell you the wrong way to look at metaphysics, the physicalist.
let's see. So, transcendent, illegitimate, metaphysical, overreach, transcendental, legitimate analysis of the preconditions of human experience. And I could say a little bit more about that in naturalism. Let's see, he's doing epistemology of the subject, not metaphysics of the universe. When you see events as having causes, that is a feature read off the world directly. Kant says using a category, a built-in conceptual structure to organize sensations into an intelligible world. That's transcendental. It's an analysis of how we can have a coherent experience.
Right. That's what we're all doing. The Christian is challenging the atheist on these very categories, specifically the presuppositionalists. This is what makes them squirm, because they just say, oh, we're all doing this. Let's just skip past this and get into pragmatism. When you start challenging these categories and you know how to have the conversation, you're going to realize that they're barren as far as answers here. And they're going to do everything they can to try to weasel out of this.
To the world at all. And I kind of like part ways with him on a sort of the substance of some of this. Tag as used by presuppositionalists like Van Til, Bonson, Saitan, what's his name?
Bruggencate.
Bruggencate.
Yeah.
Bruggencate. B-R-U-G-G.
Yeah, Saitan is considered like the blue collar of presuppositionalism. He could easily dismantle these guys, but they would never have it. They would never admit it. But he could easily. He just keeps asking them, how do you know? How do you know that? It's like the very most basic form still stops these guys, because their knowledge claims are never based in any certainty. They're never grounded in anything true. They're just based on what they might try to call possibilities or probabilities, which is a broken probability. It's a mysterious probability that they can't account for.
J. Dyer, etc. Logic, induction, morality, universals require a Christian God to ground them. Why? Justify that. How do you justify that?
The tag argument is the justification. When we ask you how you justify your morality or trying to tell me or influencing me, why would I be under your subjective system in the first place? You don't know right and wrong. You just assume them and look to make agreements with other humans, dialectics. But ultimately you say, well, we're the arbiters of right and wrong. So that breaks down to sense data, to your feelings. You feel a certain way, so you want to impart that onto others or discuss it with others. When they start to question how that's the case or why you know that, epistemology, that's where you fall short too. You don't have justification. The best you have is subjective expression. So how are you going to try to hold people under a subjective system of what they should do, what right and wrong are? They're going to have to agree with you, and the believer doesn't agree with you.
Therefore, non-believers borrow these things from a Christian worldview. That's the only way we can think, is to borrow shit.
No, it's not the only way you can think. You're trying to make a point and make an argument and move it forward as though it's true and it's correct. But when asked what truth is, you get an obscure answer. And when you're asked what the correct way is, it's a subjective idea. Well, you're the arbiter of the correct way. It shows the weakness of your position.
Kant is explaining human cognition. Tag tries to smuggle in a deity, and they're trying to explain.
No, it's not a smuggling in the deity. It starts with a deity.
The noumena.
Who were the Mesopotamians borrowing from, before there was a Judaic religion?
Yeah.
People had views of the world that worked for them, and that they would be.
The Christian position is that it's all God's world, that it was created by God. So anybody that you can mention would still fall in that category of utilizing what's written on their heart, or utilizing what God has set forth in reality, but not recognizing God. So anybody you mention would fall in the category of borrowing, who doesn't attribute these categories to starting with God.
Be very hard pressed to change, because worldviews tend to be baked into people deeply through social training and things like that, and education. So who were they borrowing?
Yeah, that's a good way to describe you guys. You have this worldview baked in by education or indoctrination in social situations. We want to know not what we agree on. We can agree on many things. We want to know how you arrived at that conclusion and how it's justified. This is what you guys want to avoid, that particular discussion.
Views tend to be baked into people deeply through social training and things like that, and education. So who were they borrowing from when they had moral precepts and rules?
Yeah. Phantom X has Phantom X11 has a very good comment here. I have yet to have a theist explain to me why an intentional universe is an orderly one and the unintentional one is chaotic, rather than changing mechanically by necessity. And that's sort of brute force naturalism, right? And I can get into how we can justify that.
Yeah, can you? But you can, but you won't.
Unfortunately, when you talk to idiots like JG, they can't keep their mouth shut long enough to even listen to what you're saying.
So now that I'm not there, you're still not going to get into it? Interesting.
About, how do you justify it? How do you ground things? Anyway, let's see. Where are we? Smuggling a deity.
What a funny point to make, right? Like, well, I can get into it, but when I'm talking to people, they don't let me. Here he has the opportunity. The question's on the screen. He's made a relation to the idea, but he's still not explaining it, is he? Not a good look, Mike.
Human okay, here's why religion must be true for logic to work. Kant is doing an analysis of the subject's cognitive architecture, space and time, and things like that are, transcendental categories that we can't get around. There's no possibility of anything at all, let alone knowledge or, making sense, intelligibility. Kant forbids using transcendental arguments to reach God. Tag does exactly that. Okay, so when they try to pretend that they know, that they're real smart because, they understand Kant and his run-on sentences.
No, Christians aren't arguing Kant. Kant is known for the philosophy of transcendental categories. That's well known, that he touches base on these things. Aristotle's known for that too. Van Til comes along and grounds the argument and the idea through the tag. If he wants to make Kant an authority, well, let's challenge his appeal to that authority, right? Why is this philosopher somebody that holds truth, and why are you utilizing that in your worldview? Like, those questions are on the table.
They're actually going quite a bit against what he is saying, and they'll admit to it once in a while. But anyway, Kant says reason.
No, who's worried about going against Kant, right?
Cannot legitimately infer God from transcendental categories. He calls such moves transcendent illusions. He has a word for it. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good that he has a word for it. But when we ask how he knows that it's an illusion, how's he going to explain that? He's just assuming that. He can't know that.
Tag goes, logic exists, therefore Christian God. Kant would classify that as a textbook case of illegitimate metaphysics. So it equivocates between psychological psychological conditions of knowing and ontological conditions of being. who treats laws of logic as objects, needing a metaphysical father figure.
It doesn't equivocate, it unifies. It doesn't compartmentalize them like autonomous philosophers do. They try to separate ontology or metaphysics and epistemology. But the Christian argues that those two ideas are unified. Also, ethics is undivorceable. Metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics are a unified idea in basic philosophy.
Like the laws of logic are something that is tangible and floating out there. And you get to that with this idea of universals, right?
So if he's going to go against universals, he's going to nuke himself, isn't he? Because he's assuming universals. If he's going to say logic is not something out there or something objective, then he's just going to reduce it to something in his own head, which he's going to bring in mind. Again, he's, as a physicalist, he's just going to assume mind. But that puts them in a category of variant or subjective rather than invariant and objective, which will fall back on he has his logic and I have my logic. But he doesn't really believe that's the case, does he? He doesn't think that logic is personal or person dependent, does he?
Every time you say universals are abstract, you have made yourself, you put your head on the chopping block for these guys. So I will push back against this bullshit that numbers and all those things are abstracts, that they don't.
So Mike knows where the number 7 is, even though it's a unsolved philosophical problem. Mike has found the number 7. He has a video on it too. What a guy.
Exist because there's no such thing as an abstract. And yet
there's no such thing as an abstract, huh? So he's just trying to kick out transcendental categories as he learns about them, this guy.
Are numbers. We can count on them. Anyway.
What are we counting on? We're asking about the ontology of the alleged numbers, how and where they exist. As a physicalist, you rely on evidence and physical things to establish your position. Numbers are outside of that category, so you get frustrated and you imagine or pretend that you've located the number 7.
Humans use logic. The universe must be the mind of my particular deity. That's what Kant says. Kant would laugh that out of the room. Pretty good. Okay. Anyway, so that's that.
What does he think he just did, by the way?
Remove, which I kind of like. Did I remove it?
See the language? I like that. That's pretty good. Like, he can never go, oh, no, that's true. That definitely is true. Here's why. That's established as a truth for all people. He has no objective metaphysic. He can't even locate anything that's objectively true. If you press on him enough, he might get down to like Descartes, right? I think therefore I am. But then you can draw that back, and you'd say, well, something's existing. I know that much objectively, which is where you want to go with him, because you say, fine, okay, that's what you know. Then you want to question all his claims and the steps he's made once he steps past something existing. You just want to assume all these transcendental categories and go into a conversation about what is the case, why it's the case, and how we ought to act within. But he's established no grounds to do such a thing. And that's what you're pointing out to these guys. And they either don't get it or just dismiss it because it's obviously making them uncomfortable. They're like, well, I can't explain it. They'll start to jump to things, well, no one can explain it, which is a universal, right? How do you get to the universal negative of knowing what all people can or can't do? You have to start catching them in different logical fallacies. Because that's what they do. They smuggle in all these ideas and logical fallacies that you have to catch and point out. And what it typically comes down to is a tu quo que, because when you catch them, they don't want to be caught. And they go, well, you do it too. You do it too. And you have to revert back to your argument where it's not the case, and back and forth and on and on.
I don't know if I did.
I was looking up the word indirection because the other day, whenever I kept saying that presuppositionalists engage in essentially a form of, and I couldn't think of the word, it was indirection, a way to kind of roundaboutly draw you into and make you think of the legitimacy of a line of thought without really being.
Oh, wow. So they get into the, I'm showing up in the stream. And then it gets into Jay Dyer. These are good little snippets. I want to see what he says on this. That's funny.
I want to welcome the mighty Filbert. He has joined us.
Oh, good. Let's see. Yeah. Full screen layout. And why did that go back out of theater mode? Come on. Go back. Okay. So this video has, he's actually got a little talk in here about.
No, I do think that there is logical, demonstrable proof for the Christian God. I think the transcendental argument is a valid, sound, logical argument.
Okay, this is a
I think that reason itself, hearsay or
these necessary preconditions for knowledge are in place, and that the necessary condition of these things is God, and that's the argument for God's existence.
I hear you. What I'm agreeing with you, here's where we agree. We agree that logic is a necessary condition for knowledge. We agree on those things. What we don't agree on is that God is a precondition for that. What I'm asking you to demonstrate, because you're claiming God is a precondition, is that the God actually exists to be a precondition. Simply saying
the arguments already for God's existence. This is what you're missing.
And so where's the demonstration?
Yeah, that is what she's missing. I should have played more of that.
For that, other than an
debate
assertion
right now is the demonstration.
No, it's not. I mean, if we're just going to make flat out assertions, then you assert your right.
That's an argument.
It's not an argument. You haven't presented a single argument for the.
Yeah, you watch that with Jay Dyer and Matt Dillahunty. He tries to play that. He doesn't understand the transcendental argument like the guys doing this video. He just have to keep re-explaining it to it. It's a transcendental argument. It has qualities of both deductive and inductive argument, but it is a separate type of meta-level argument. And you can't just dismiss it because you want to. It is an argument. You don't like it, you don't agree with it, that's granted. But what are you going to do about it? That becomes the question. How are you going to handle it?
The entire thing, you've presented colloquial kind of loose arguments, but there's not. The whole thing is you claimed that this shouldn't exist in my worldview, that logical absolutes could not be true under my worldview. The fact that you're presupposing that there is an explanation for why they're absolute rather than just recognizing that they are.
That would be being arbitrary and being ad hoc, and typically in debates that's not allowed.
What is?
It just is. That's what Matt Dillahunty did. Logic just is. And the defeater actually is what Chase Haggard used on Nikki, which was just shown previously. Logic just is. Well, God just is becomes the defeater. It's not even the argument, but if you're going to take your most fundamental metaphysic that's presupposed and say logic just is, well, then God just is on the table too. And you've lost the argument.
The transcendental argument for the existence of God, often referred to just as tag.
So what did he just say to Matt Dillahunty? You remember that debate? That was kind of the famous first debate between Jay Dyer and Matt Dillahunty.
I never saw that.
Oh, I did a long time ago. And anyway, so Matt was saying that Oh God, I forgot what Matt was saying. I guess I better just move on.
Yeah, you're acting like you watched and understood it, but you don't have anything that you took away from it, do you? Because you're looking for facial expressions, listening for confidence and strong feelings. You're not understanding the substance of the argument itself, Mike. That's where you're coming up short. That's why when you try to talk to me, you get frustrated. I talk to you in a manner that tries to lay these things out, showing how you're just assuming all these philosophical categories as a physicalist, and you just want to keep talking and talking.
So here we have the argument begins at the most paradigmatic level to prove that God must exist. It argues for the preconditions of experience itself being rooted in God. How? Tell me how. How is it rooted in God? And without God, there is no justification for those preconditions.
The argument is that God is the necessary precondition for all reality, all the transcendental categories. That is the argument, Mike. You may not like it or agree with it, but that is the argument, and it is a valid argument. If you want to say it's not sound, the first premise is challengeable, good luck. That means from your worldview, you have to prove that the first premise is not sound if you want to take that route.
I believe the same thing about toast.
Yeah.
That has been.
So if you believe toast is a necessary precondition, you've mentioned a physical thing in reality. So certainly you can point to it because that's what you want, things you can point to, right? So put that together, wise guy, right? You're saying something ridiculous because you heard it from Alex Malpass. But you can't even put that together. You're just parroting Alex Malpass's silliness because you see him as an authority. But you can't really put that together. This has been tried. It's a little more complicated when you're arguing, a different religion or a different God in the transcendental category. But it's still not a problem for those who know how to argue the Christian God and the tag argument. You're on a very sophist level with the toast thing. It's very do it, please do it. Please bring a formal argument about toast.
Revealed to me.
Okay. This is just they say it's rooted in God, but they got to tell you how it's rooted in God. And they'll go back and tell you the whole, God just made it that way story, right? Which doesn't mean a fucking thing.
Well, not quite, Mike. We adhere to the scriptures.
It doesn't, it's a non sequitur. You can't just restate your argument, right?
It's not a non sequitur. He can't even follow the argument.
Well, how does God justify it? Well, God just does justify it. I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? How God does it, because God can do anything.
How does God justify what?
Anyway,
I was reading this.
How would Mike know what God can do or what God needs to justify? It's interesting when you start asking him questions like that. He'll say it in such an obvious way, like the burden is on you. When you lay out the transcendental argument, he tries to reject through different rhetoric. But, when you ask these guys, like, how are you able to make claims about what God can and can't do? Why would you even take that route?
Article on Masterclass about misdirection, which they use synonymously with the idea of indirection, and 7 types of misdirection tricks in magic or illusionism or mentalism. Number 3 is listed as patter, talking rapidly, and
So that's not going to get you anywhere. To try to characterize someone as misdirection, you have to point out the actual misdirection, why it's wrong, which is going to be subjective. You're going to subjectively say it's wrong at best. So this comment here, I like Tang, transcendental argument for not God, that was tried long ago and abandoned because it assumes logic. as the ultimate precondition or presupposition in a sense, but that can be easily challenged, right? Like how that's the case and why that's established. And it's the same thing that Nikki, who was just shown with Chase Haggard, it just is, which brings you back to God just is, which is the precondition for logic. So it's a defeater.
You know, just mentioning all sorts of things, and society engages in patter when it includes religion. There's all sorts of religious beliefs out there in the air, and of course, in churches, you have God talk all around you to the point where people just assume that when you talk about God, you're talking about something.
Right.
And that's what this is. It's just indirection. God
No, that's not what this is. You're making a characterization that you've decided to bring into the conversation. It doesn't mean that you're doing anything to solve or to disprove the transcendental argument for God. You know, in fact, you might be engaging in patter. Is that what you're calling it? Pitter patter in your own way. Because you are dogmatic. You and Mike are dogmatic. All humans are dogmatic. You have beliefs, a priori beliefs that you rely on in order to move forward and present arguments and have conversations. We want to know what those a priori beliefs are, what you have faith in, and the justification for those things. And that's the part of the discussion you want to move away from, because ultimately you're pragmatist. You're like, well, we can't know certain things, so let's just make sense of what we can. That's where you're comfortable. So the presuppositional says, well, no, I want to challenge the things prior to the assumptions and presuppositions that you're holding. And that's where you guys start to get unglued.
doesn't justify anything, because something has to exist in order to be behind justification of anything.
Yeah. Well, that sounds good, doesn't it, Scott? I think is your name. How do you even know that's the case? Like, if I was to agree with you and say, yeah, there needs to be something there for you to justify it, that seems obvious. How does he know that's the case? It seems so obvious, but when you ask them to hash that out, they don't know how to. You're going to rely on some self-proclaimed authority like Kant or some philosopher and say, okay, that's interesting that person thought that. Why do you think that? How do you justify it? If your justification is just another person that you admire, what have you actually done there?
Yeah. God doesn't ground anything, because there has to be ground to ground things too. You need to show that God exists. Otherwise, you're just making up words, putting them.
So he says you need to show that God exists in the way that he's determined, because he says so and he subjectively feels that's right. He's not sure. He's not certain. And there's no true way to do it. That he can't say, well, you ought to do this. You should do it this way. Objectively, he's saying, well, based on my experience, my observation, my sense data, I feel like you should do it this way. Will you do it this way? Will you please do it this way? And when you say no to him, I'm doing it this way. Well, here he is. He's just making rhetorical claims and giving an account of where he is in this whole where his position is when poised against a transcendental argument. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't really know how to combat this. So he's going into generalizations of what he thinks and should be the way. And again, it's a subjective stance. This is his personal feelings, observation, and experience, trying to convince you that you need to do something a certain way.
In the sentence and saying that's the key, that's the thing.
Yep. Does certainty exist have a wrench? No. Don't give him a wrench. I'm kind of not inclined to. I don't know. But maybe I'll post his channel if I can find it. Yeah. Do you think I should play? He's gonna review this later, and it's just gonna be a shit show. I mean,
yeah, it is. It is a shit show. You guys aren't doing anything. You're giving your feelings and suggestions. You're not getting to the truth of the falsity of anything, are you? You're like, we don't like this. We don't like this.
The guy can't.
I think you've given the fella plenty of attention in the past.
Yeah, he's learned how to like speak the. He's learned how to speak the language, right? And it's like
the pattern.
And yeah, the pattern. He just keeps repeating it over and over. How do you justify that? Blah blah blah.
No, it's not that I keep repeating. It's I have to repeat the question because you're not answering it. Your answer is blah, blah, blah. It's not that I just know the language. I know how to navigate this discussion, especially with a physicalist. Why do you have to make it so easy? You know, if all things are physical and you look for evidences that are physical and you want to point to things physical, you're going to be lost when it comes to transcendental categories. Yet you know you can't escape transcendental categories because you utilize them in all that you do and say, believe, claim, and argue. That's the problem you're having. And this, what you're doing here, is certainly not solving it.
Okay, so this number 2 point here, and without God, there is no justification for these preconditions. Well, wait a minute. Then if there's no justification, why do they keep asking us to justify it?
Because you don't have it, silly.